नमस्कार, आदाब, सत श्री अकाल दोस्तों। स्वागत है आपका एक बार फिर से हमारे YouTube चैनल ब्रास फ्यूजन्स पर, जहां आज हम आपके लिए लेकर आए हैं एक नया लेसन।
Therefore, what the court says is, if a person is wrongly appointed, a writ of quo warranto will apply, notwithstanding in 361, because the constitutional duty is higher and you have violated the constitution, infringed the constitution by appointing such a person. Then comes another argument that I would like us to pay attention to, which is the doctrine of the political ticket. Now, this is a very interesting argument, first time taken by a case which we will study when we come to President's Rule, the doctrine of political ticket. It's something that has come to us from American constitutional law, which flows from the doctrine of separation of powers, that if there are political questions, or as the court has put it, judicial imponderable, unanswerable questions in a court of law because of their political nature, then the court should abstain from entering the political thicket. What is a thicket? Something like a forest. You don't enter the political forest. You only go into judicial questions or questions of dispute or lists. List is just a Latin word for a dispute, which is capable of adjudication. And a political question is incapable of adjudication. So, in fact, something that we will study in the next semester, in the first presidential reference on the Ayodhya Ram Janmabhoomi dispute, the Supreme Court did not answer the question of whether it was the birthplace of Ram, because it said that this is not capable of adjudication. Subsequently, in the 2 years ago constitutional decision in the Ayodhya matter, they did not answer the question whether it was a birthplace of Ram, but they answered the question of the title suit. Who had the title to the property, which is a legal question and which is not a mythological or a religious question. Okay. So, similar to that, parallel to that is the doctrine of the political thicket, that you don't answer a political question. So, what was the matter in our B.R. Kapoor's case? And I think we must understand that carefully. The question that the Advocate General of Tamil Nadu was saying is, popularly people want Jayalalitha to get elected and to be nominated and to be appointed as the Chief Minister. And this is a popular mandate, and parliamentary democracy is also a feature of the Constitution. So it's not just the legislative party that elected Madam Jayalalitha. The elections were held and conducted. She was put forward by the AIADMK as the chief ministerial candidate, and people who voted for the different MLAs actually voted in the name of Madam Jayalalitha. And therefore, this is a political question, and because it's a political question, the court should not go into whether she was qualified or not, because politically she was entered. Now, what the court says is, if what the Supreme Court here says is, we should not treat this as a political question. It still is a legal question, and it is still a constitutional question whether Jayalalitha on the date of appointment was qualified or not. We have already rejected the opinion that we must wait for the appellate court because the conviction continues. We have rejected the argument of presumption of innocence because there is a valid, continuing, binding judgment of the lower court. We have already said that the conviction was for 3 years, so under Section 8(4) of the Representation of People's Act, the conviction is more than 2 years, so she's disqualified. We have also distinguished the SP Gupta case because SP Anand case, SP Anand case had given a 6-month window. That 6-month window should not be made available to this person because Therefore, this is still a legal question. It's not a religious question. So the religious question of whether this was the birthplace of Lord Rama, that's a religious question. That's not the question that was asked, for example, in the title suit. Whether the Akhada had the title or the other group had the title, that was the question. Okay? So questions of a religious nature you don't answer, but questions of a legal nature you will answer. So Dr. Jayalalitha was made the chief minister. Is it a political question that we cannot go into it? Supreme Court says no, because the Constitution says that a person who is disqualified cannot be appointed as chief minister. So that 6-month window is meaningless, because even today itself, prima facie, we can see that the person is disqualified, because her conviction was for a period of 3 years. And therefore the court says that the Constitution is suprema lex. So, to just conclude this point, because this is a point that has ramifications in the President's Rule case. What is the doctrine of political ticket? Something that is entirely political. Is this the correct time to impose President's Rule or not? That subjective decision is a political ticket question. But is there material to show that there is possibility that there is a breakdown of constitutional machinery? That's a legal question. Economic question is another question that the court keeps out of. Let me just extend my argument. That is, yes, the equality argument is there, Rupali. I'll take it up together with the reading down bit. I'll come to that because I want to take it up with the Lily Thomas question. But I'm wanting to expand this political question to economic questions. There have been many times where the court has refused to go into a question where it is a matter of economic policy. For example, the demonetization question, they said is a question of economic policy. They did not go into that. The question of whether we should have petrol or CNG, that is a policy question that the court normally will never adjudicate on. And the most well-known of this economic question that the court keeps out of was in the first case that came up before Supreme Court, Delhi Science Forum in early 1994. Should you have, telecom licenses? Should these be privatized or not? These are economic questions. So the court normally keeps away from 3 types of questions. Religious questions. Is this the birthplace of Lord Rama? I took that kind of question up. Questions of a political nature. Though there is material to show that there is breakdown of constitutional machinery in a state, the decision whether to impose President's Rule or not is a political question. Number 3, economic questions, which the court is not competent. Should we have CNG? Should you have auction, or should we go for privatization of telecom? These are economic questions that are left to the economic executive arm. However, in this case, though the argument was raised, the court says it's not a political question, it is a question of legal and constitutional nature. And in the trade-off between parliamentary democracy and people of Tamil Nadu wanting Dr. Jayalalitha as chief minister and her disqualification by virtue of Article 191, it is the suprema lex. The last point, and I'm going to take up that last point and not fully answer it, is that under Section 8(4) of the Representation of People's Act, a person who is sitting already as an MP or MLA, if that person as a sitting MP or sitting MLA is disqualified, then Section 8(4) as it then stood held that the disqualification will be effective only at the end of the tenure of term of the parliament or term of the legislative assembly. So let's say it's a 5-year term, a person gets elected and then halfway through the conviction ongoing trial convicts the person. Section 8(4) said that if you are a sitting MP or MLA, you will continue till the end of that particular term. However, in this case, she had been convicted even prior. So Section 8(4) made two categories of people who are disqualified. One who got disqualified midway through their term, then you could continue. But people who were disqualified before their term began, before their election, before their appointment as minister, etc., before they got elected, were completely disqualified. Now, they did not come, and this may have been a fatal error also in the case. They did not challenge the constitutionality of Section 8(4) on the ground of inequality. And there are political reasons why they didn't, because I think, but they did not challenge the constitutionality, saying that it makes a categorization of two people equally placed. After all, both have been disqualified. Isko kyun chance dete ho, isko kyun nahi chance dete ho? They didn't do that. Instead, they asked, and I'm sure Rupali mentioned this, they asked for it to be read down and read up. Interesting thing. What is reading down? If something is very broad and it may get struck down, there is always a presumption of constitutionality in a court case. So if something is very broad and you think because it's broad it may be struck down, the courts can read it down. Let me give you an example. You studied Geeta Hariharan versus State in the first year. Did you study Geeta Hariharan versus State in family law, minority and guardianship? Please tell me yes in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now that would be an example of trying to read it down, father and mother, okay, because you want to read down to save the constitutionality. But here is a case of reading up. You are wanting the same benefit that a sitting MP has. So, Section 8(4), which disqualifies you at the very threshold, in limine, you want it to be read up. And you say, no, let her continue her 5-year term as Chief Minister and bring it on par with sitting MPs and MLAs. And the Supreme Court says we can read down, but we cannot read up. Why I say I'm going to stop here now is, Lily Thomas takes up this apparent discrimination between two sets of people, those who are sitting and those who are waiting to enter MP or Parliament or Legislative Assembly. And in our next class, Akshay, you are there. Hopefully by tomorrow's class, my computer, I don't know what the problem is, I'll be able to hear you. So I'm going to stop here now. I would like the entire class, please, to read the P.R. Kapoor case if you've not read it, and read Lily Thomas case. Ma'am, okay, let me now answer the questions that have been typed in here. No, exactly. So democracy versus constitution, Priyanka. It's the constitution that wins. Okay. So even though parliamentary democracy is a basic structure of the constitution, supremacy of the constitution is also a basic structure. Keshavananda had listed many. And why I say this case is very interesting is, if tomorrow there is any conflict between two elements of the basic structure, parliamentary democracy and suprema lex, the court seems to imply that it's suprema lex or supremacy that will apply. So even if everybody in India, popular will wants us to do an unconstitutional act, the Supreme Court will act as the defender of the Constitution and say that it is not possible. So I think the more interesting political takeaways for us is that merely because there is a whole lot of popular opinion that we must do something that is illegal, or popular opinion that we must do something that is unconstitutional, populism is not going to win. It's going to be constitutionalism. So if I want to put it is very succinctly, I would say it is in the trade-off between populism and constitutionalism, it's constitutionalism that the court will uphold, even though it says we the people of India. So the idea of having rights And the idea of having basic structure in one sense prevents people from backsliding to very terrible and negative thought. So it sort of keeps in place certain minimum conditions on the basis of which people came together and formed an India. So, it has very profound implications. Does the basics this has been something, this is not the semester where I teach it in the second semester, but I think we've mentioned this point. Is there an anti-democratic aspect to the basic structure doctrine? That is, even if people tomorrow said, let us make India into something that the basic structure doesn't want. Let us have India where we do away with parliament or elections and let us have some other form of totalitarian military rule. If this is the popular sentiment, then it would go against the basic structure, because basic structure has identified fundamental rights, elections, free and fair elections, parliamentary democracy as aspects of the basic structure. Therefore, it holds the people back from giving full vent to their popular views. And so some people have written that the basic structure doctrine, in fact, may be seen as anti-democratic because it doesn't allow people to decide. But the counter-argument which is there in Keshwananda Bharati is that if you can have
दोस्तों, अगर आपको आज का लेसन पसंद आया हो तो वीडियो को लाइक करें। इसी के साथ अगर आपने अभी तक हमारा चैनल सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है तो सब्सक्राइब के बटन पर क्लिक करिए और बेल आइकन दबाना ना भूलें, ताकि आपको एजुकेशन से रिलेटेड नए नए अपडेट्स मिलते रहें। और अधिक जानकारी पाने के लिए आप हमारे फेसबुक और इंस्टाग्राम पेज से भी जुड़ सकते हैं, जिसका लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में दिया गया है। धन्यवाद।